Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Burke. I'm Executive Director of Western Liberty Network. I would like to welcome you to this training. We do these every Saturday. It's Western Liberty Network's Saturday Zoom training session. And we'll have another one next week. We had one last week. We have one this week. And we're going to do it every weekend at 1 o'clock Pacific time at this BAT channel. So it's all very good. I have to point out that Western Liberty Network is a 501c3 organization. We do not endorse or oppose any candidate, political party, ballot measure, or legislation. Instead, we provide people with training on how to be effective politically in the communities where they live. And the people then are then able to take the training and use it in any manner they think is helpful to them. So that's what that is about. If you would like to learn more about Western Liberty Network, I'm going to share the screen here in just a moment. Let's see. I think I can make this work. Here we go. Okay, here we go. This is Western Liberty Network's website. This is the homepage. And as you can see, the top always features the Saturday session that we're going to be doing. And this is the one that we're doing today. If you scroll down, there are lots of other assets, information about previous events, also links to live speeches from other conferences. There's actually a lot of good stuff here. And if you want to have access to our training facilities, just go to the training tab. And when you do, you will see this page. And when you scroll down, you'll see a variety of training documents. These training documents are all PDF files. You can download them or view them. And they're designed to be provided with a live training, but they also stand on their own. So you can use them and get a lot of really good information. Scroll down a little further and you have access to our videos, our weekly WLN Saturday training sessions. And the one that we're doing right now, you'll see posted here by the end of today. But you can go down and you can take a look at the topic that interests you, and you can just click on the one you're dealing with, and you'll be able to see the training session. So that's also, we've got another person coming in. That's good. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'm going to begin the training here. Hi, Wagner. Thank you for coming on board. Today's training is how to set up a fundraising event in your home or in somebody's home for whatever it is that you're trying to do. You might want to raise money for a political campaign if you're running for office, or if you're wanting to help somebody running for office, or if you have a project, or if you're doing something on a ballot measure or whatever. What I've found is that in terms of amount of money invested versus the amount of money realized, having private fundraising events in private homes is one of the best ways you can raise money for what it is that you do. And there are several steps that I have here that I'm going to go through. If you would like to interject with a question, or if you have a comment that you'd like to share, I encourage you to unmute your microphone and just jump in. Interrupting me is okay. So if you want to do that, that's fine. The first step that I try to tell people to do is to set goals for your fundraising event. Some of the goals are obvious. How much money do you want to raise at this event? Say what that is. And also, there are some secondary goals that you might want to consider adopting. That is, in addition to how much money you have or how much money you're going to raise, how many donors do you want to cultivate? People that go to these events are often capable of being donors themselves. They're capable of holding events in their homes themselves and decide, okay, I'd like to raise $10,000 at this event, and I'd also like to cultivate maybe 10 new donors, whatever that is. Another goal you might want to set is whether or not you can get people to agree to let you access their network of acquaintances and friends. Also, another goal you might want to consider is whether or not you want people to endorse the project or the campaign that you're working on, or whether or not they're willing to volunteer to work on your campaign. So set a variety of goals. How much money do you want to make? How many donors do you want to cultivate? Are you going to have access to how many networks? And How many endorsements do you think you might be able to acquire? And how many volunteers would you be able to acquire? Once you have a set of goals in mind, you're going to have an idea of what you want to accomplish, and that makes it easier to organize the entire event. The second thing I ask people to do is, and this may seem obvious, but find a host. You know, it's important to have a host if you're going to host an event in a home. Maybe that host is you. Maybe that host is somebody else who you know supports what it is you're trying to do. But there are some characteristics of a good host. One is they should have a nice home. If they have a nice home, you're going to get bigger checks. If they have a nice home, they probably know other people that have nice homes. Other people that have nice homes generally have more money and are able to make more substantial contributions. So find a host that is willing to host an event who themselves have a nice home. Make sure that when you decide to have the event, that they are taking care of things like children or dogs or those kinds of things that might distract from the event by making a lot of noise or jumping up on people. Hopefully kids aren't doing that, but dogs often do. Make sure that you have an environment where you're capable of having a good fundraising event. Another characteristic of the host is that whoever hosts the event should themselves be able to make and are willing to make a successful contribution to the event themselves. Donna is coming on board. We got a few people coming in, but they should be able to make a significant contribution themselves. What is significant? Well, significant is going to depend on what it is you're trying to do. If you're doing a local event, $500 might be significant. If you're trying to get somebody elected to statewide office, $5,000 might be a significant amount. You're going to have to decide what is significant. But it's important that when you have a fundraising event, that the host themselves, whoever they are able to make a significant contribution themselves, and that contribution needs to be announced at the event themselves. The ideal host also has a network of friends capable of donating. So if you're talking to somebody who is a supporter, willing to hold a fundraising event in their home, even if that person is you, it is ideal if that person knows people who are also capable of donating. And also, it's important, actually critical, that whoever hosts this event is willing to invite people to the event. That means they're going to have to go out, they're going to have to make phone calls and say, hey, I'm holding a fundraising event for this event. I'd like you to come and listen and maybe be prepared to make a contribution if you like what you hear. They need to be able to do that on the phone. They need to be able to do that on email. Now you can do that yourself, but you know, if this person is inviting their personal network of folks to come to this event, nobody will be more successful at getting butts in the seat than the host themselves by implementing their own personal network. So once you have all of this worked out, develop an event committee. An event committee typically consists of whoever the host is going to be, but it also consists of whoever is, you know, trying to be involved with making the event successful, typically a campaign manager or a campaign representative or somebody like that, and someone who's willing to assist with things like emails, who can provide information for phone calls, find phone numbers, do those sorts of things. So this committee is going to be made up of the host, campaign workers, and it's going to be the job of that committee to plan the actual event. Now, there is a standard way. I mean, there's more than one way, of course, but there's a standard way that folks can plan an event. And I like this particular method I'm going to describe to you because it's low cost, and you want to make sure that you don't spend so much money on your fundraiser that, you know, you don't make money after you've gotten some back. So it's important to have it in a private home, somebody who's willing to support your cause or your candidate, whatever you're doing, but keep the costs low. So the first thing is, when folks arrive, plan for there to be desserts, hors d'oeuvres, wine, maybe some drinks. Make sure you have some non-alcoholic alternatives that are available. But it's going to be a situation where you might have a 4 o'clock event, and from 4 to 4:30, it's just a mixer, and you have some hors d'oeuvres and you have some drinks and these sorts of things. The candidate should not be there at this time. The candidate should not be there at the beginning of the event. This should be the moment for the host to make people comfortable as they arrive for the event. About a half hour after the starting time, the candidate should show up. The candidate should show up with somebody who is working for them, someone who's a personal assistant, somebody like that, somebody who's going to make a critical ask. I'll get into the ask in just a little bit of a moment, but the candidate arrives. And for a period of time, as long as feels comfortable, the candidate should begin by just saying hello to everybody, shaking everybody's hands, making sure that they circulate around. Maybe they get an hors d'oeuvre, maybe they get a drink, but anyhow, they relax and just have sort of an informal presence at the event where they interact with people individually before the true event actually gets started. And this gives the candidate a chance to press the flesh with everyone who's there and make them feel a little bit special. At that point, when it feels comfortable, you ask everyone to sort of sit down. And Julie Nowaki just entered into the conference. Okay, Julie has arrived. Thank you, Julie. For Julie's benefit, there are a few things we've discussed already of importance. I'll encourage you to go to the recording when it's posted tonight and check on that, and then you can loop around to where you are now. But anyway, the candidate arrives about a half hour after the event start time. The candidate interacts and mixes with people sort of informally, shakes everybody's hand, asks them a question about themselves, makes them feel important, is willing to answer a quick question from the people, and just circulate around the room. During this time, whoever is with the candidate, with the campaign, should make sure that information is handed out. If there's a palm card or a literature piece or something like that, this is something that's good to give to people as they come in before the candidate arrives, but even during this period where the candidate is mixing with the attendees, it's good to hand it out so people are able to glance at it when they're not talking with the candidate. And Ginger Mugar has just entered, so that's all very good. And so at this point, you sit everybody down and say, okay, we're going to start now. We're going to start the event. And if you have a video, that's great. It's always good to introduce with a video, especially if you have a professionally made video that looks polished and is ready to go. Hopefully the host, in advance of having the event, you can make sure that there's a big screen TV in the room, that there's a DVD or some whatever you need to put the video up on the screen, and you watch the video. And at that point, the candidate will make a presentation. The candidate will talk about himself or herself, and the candidate will be able to talk about what they want to do and give highlights of themselves. And then there will be some Q&A. I think the candidate should be willing to ask or answer some questions. But then at that point, at a point where it feels like it's time to do the ask. Now, it's important that when everybody is invited to the event, that they know it is a fundraiser. They understand that in advance. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when holding a fundraiser in a private home is that they do not tell the people who are coming that it is a fundraiser and that they are going to be asked for money at the end of the event. And so people come, they expect a meet and greet, and then when the ask comes, they just sit there and they don't do anything. And they feel like they've been wrangled into something under false pretenses, and that can create a lot of negative feelings. So make sure that when the invitations are done, and I'm going to talk more about this in a little bit, that the people who are there know that they're going to be asked for money. Now, this is in some cases going to mean you're going to have fewer people attend. That's okay. It's better to have informal group of people who know what they're there for. You're going to have a better chance of accomplishing your goal than if you just try to get a lot of people there and hope that you catch some in your net. So make sure that you don't create any ill will by creating the impression that you're asking people to attend under false pretenses. and that when the invites are made, that people know that that's a fundraiser. Now, when you're planning, decide who's going to do the ask. When you're planning this event, is it going to be the host or the hostess? If the host or hostess is going to be making the ask, they need to know how to make the ask. And I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. Also, talk with the host or hostess about who they're going to invite. Do not invite people unless they are either able to make a contribution or they have influence in the community and are able to inspire other people to make contributions or different kinds of contributions to the campaign. Watch the time and date. Make sure that you are not holding your event on the same day as some political party meeting in the area or something that conflicts with an event that is going to draw some of the people that you want to get. Make sure you get the host's commitment. How much is the host willing to donate? They're going to have to make a donation. If they're going to host, they're going to have to make a donation. And there are a couple of ways to do that that I'm going to talk about shortly, but you're going to want to secure that contribution so that you know what you can challenge people with when they arrive and participate in the meeting. Now, with the host, you're going to make a list of who you're going to invite. The best way to invite people is for the host to call them and ask them to come, personally. And then as the date approaches, it is best if the host can call to confirm their participation. Email is fine too, but it's not as good as a personal live interaction on the phone. So the host should make these connections. If the campaign knows people who are in the area, who would be good to come to this event, that's fine. If you want to tack that onto the list, and the candidate or the campaign may ask them to appear. But if we're talking about the personal network of the host or the hostess is going to have to make the phone calls and ask them to come, and make sure that there are confirmation phone calls or emails to double check and make sure that they're going to show up. And again, you have to make sure it's going to be a fundraiser. The host or hostess is going to have to say something like, I'm hosting a private, exclusive event. People like to be part of private and exclusive events. So make sure that you tell people, we're holding a private and exclusive event. We're going to be trying to raise money for Tom Jones or Dick Smith or Jane Doe or whoever the candidate is or whatever the project is. We're going to have a private, exclusive meeting where we're going to be raising money. So I'm going to be making a significant contribution myself. I'd like you to come ready to make a contribution of your own. Are you willing to come and hear what we have to say? And if you like what you hear, make a contribution. So it's important to make personal invitations, the host specifically, but they need to know they're going to be asked for money. That's absolutely key. Let's see. Coming back here, you execute the event. People show up, they mix, they have some hors d'oeuvres, they have a drink or two, then maybe they're handed a palm card or some information about the candidate, campaign, or project that you're dealing with. And then the person key to the project or campaign, the candidate typically will show up. They'll mix with people for a little while, sit down. If there's a video, watch the video. The candidate or the project leader will make a presentation. There'll be some Q&A, and then there will be an ask. The ask is important. I once attended an event at Salty's restaurant up in Seattle, and a guy named Jerry Kingen was the owner. He's one of the founders of Red Robin Restaurants. And they had lots of rich people down there. And it was a fundraiser for Americans for Prosperity. And Americans for Prosperity made a great presentation, but at the end, they didn't ask for money. And so they got a little bit from the host, and they got a little bit from a couple of the host's friends, but they could have raised $200,000 at that event. They ended up raising about $25,000. This is what you do not want to happen at your event. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to raise $250,000, but it might be the difference between raising $5,000 and $500. So the ask is very, very important. Make sure you know who is going to do the ask. It could be the host, but sometimes the hosts are not comfortable with making the ask. If that's the case, then it should be someone who's on the campaign team. The candidate themselves should never be making the ask. And the reason why is because it often makes them look weak. It makes them look like they're begging for money, and that's not what we want to have happen. And if you are having some issues with regard to, asking for money, just remember that the candidate or project that you're raising money for is carrying the water for the political beliefs of the people who are in attendance. So a candidate might say, look, I know that you have your family. I know that you have your business. I know that you don't have the time to do the political work that you think needs to be done. So I'm going to do that work for you. I'm going to carry your water. We're all politically aligned here. I'm going to carry your water. So, I'm willing to put my time and be in the trenches, but I need some help from you. If you present it that way, you're not begging for money. You're not saying my need constitutes a claim on what you have. And since I need money, you should give it to me because I need it. You're not doing that. And this is what a lot of conservatives and libertarians have a problem with, because we don't believe that need constitutes a claim on what somebody else has. We believe that it is honorable, perfectly honorable, to propose an exchange of value. If I'm selling a car for $3,000, I can say, hey, I've got this car. I need $3,000 for it. Would you like to buy the car? Well, the person might say yes, the person might say no, but nobody is humiliated, in the exchange. If you don't like the car, that's okay. You're offering a value for value, and that's completely honorable. And that is what you're doing here. You are saying, look, this project or this candidate is going to carry your water for you. That's water that you can't carry yourself because you're consumed by your family, you're consumed by your business. So we're going to do that for you. It's an exchange of value. And if you look at it that way, you're offering change in some form through a candidate or a ballot measure or a project. And you're saying, look, we need some money. Do you want to throw in? And if they say yes, that's great. And if they say no, there's no dishonor because you've offered a value and it's been refused. That's perfectly fine. And if you look at it that way, it's a lot easier to raise money than just saying, oh, I need the money, give me the money, help, so it's important. But that said, the candidate should never ask the host or the campaign. The candidate should never do the ask. It should be somebody who is the host or the campaign, I should say. And, when you do that, talk about what the money is going to pay for. Say to project the message of this candidate, we're going to have to buy TV time. We're going to have to be able to provide radio ads. We're going to have to put him on the road and do a bunch of earned media when he does interviews with newspapers and local opinion leaders. And that costs money too, just to be on the road. Let them know what they're paying for and let them know what you need. So when you begin, after you've gone through that process, you begin by saying, our host has made a contribution. We would like you to match that. So what you do is you take a check that the host has provided. I'll just grab one out of my thing here and say, look, the host has provided me with this check. And if the host has a really good relationship with some of the people that they've invited, maybe the host can secure checks from some of the guests in advance as well. So you can say the host is providing this check, and Bob over here has provided this check, and Jane over here has provided this check. So we would like each of you to make a pledge or provide a check today, for at least that amount, if not more. There are a couple of different ways that the host can leverage their crowd. One way is to make a direct contribution. Maybe the host has $5,000 that they would like to contribute. That's fine. You can say, the host has contributed $5,000. We'd like each of you to match that. Or if you can't match that, come as close to it as you can. Another way is that the host can say, I will give a matching contribution. I will donate, I will match dollar for dollar every dollar that you contribute up to a maximum of $5,000. This is another great method to use because it effectively makes every dollar that someone might contribute worth $2. It doubles the value of their contribution. What I like to do is ask hosts to provide 2 checks to say, okay, our host has agreed to donate $5,000 today without condition, but our host has said that she will also match any of your contributions up to a maximum of $5,000. So please match this amount, match this check, or match this amount. And then start looking at the eyes of everybody and say, who would like to be first? And then be quiet. Don't say anything. I guarantee you somebody will put their hand up. And how much will you donate or pledge? And make sure you've got pledge envelopes there. So, there are standard envelopes that every candidate should have that has all the information they need to provide. The Secretary of State needs certain donor information and so on. But you're going to make sure that they are able to make a pledge, and then you just take that down, or they offer you a check. If you do this, you're going to get a lot more money, but you've got to have that ask. That ask is very, very important. Be sure that you're able to accept pledges. Make sure you have contribution envelopes where people can write down their pledges if they don't have their checkbooks with them, or they can provide credit card contributions or anything like that. Have pens there so people can fill them out, and make sure you capture your data. Make sure that you get the contact information. Michelle Baker is trying to get back in. Okay, I'm gonna see if she apparently dropped out and she's coming back in. And so make sure you get contact information for everybody there with all data, phone number, email address, some comment about them, that tells you a little bit about them. So you can maybe ask them to have an event in their room. See if any of them will hold fundraisers. You're going to want to contact them after the event when they're home, but see if they want to hold fundraisers at their home. And then also look for volunteers. Even if people donate money or do not donate money, you can ask them to volunteer for the campaign and see if they're willing to do that. But you're going to want to capture all of this data at the event. So these are the ABCs. I'm not saying this is comprehensive, but these are the ABCs of holding a good at-home fundraising event. I see Ginger here. Ginger has a beautiful house, and if she wanted to, she could hold a wonderful fundraising event at her home. I imagine some of you have the same situation, but really this is one of the best ways to raise money for a political campaign or a project or a cause. One of the best ways to raise money with very low overhead, and I encourage you all to try it. So that is the end of my event. Are there any questions or comments going forward? If you want to speak, just unmute your microphone and chime right in. If when you're done, please remute your microphone so that we know that we'll have fewer feedback issues. Anyone have anything to add? Anything to say? I see a piece of paper in front of me.
That's what those envelopes look like.
That's right. That's right. These should be.
This is a state one, or it's for a county party, and then the Congress one, the one I ran for Congress, I had to have way more information on mine. So
sure.
The feds make you say different things, but I could show you an example of that if anyone's curious. But that's what they look like.
How'd you do in your race, by the way?
I won Clackamas County, and Loma County was the difficult one. So.
Yeah, and this was for which district? Blumenauer's district?
Third. It was the third at the time. They completely redid it. So I'm no longer in the third. I'm now in the fifth, but my hometown of Estacada is still in the third.
Okay, very good. I don't know what district I'm in with the redistricting now. I just moved to West Lynn. I think I'm in the fifth, but I might be in the sixth. Who knows? We'll see. Anyone else have any comments or anything to add? Okay. Seems that nobody does. I hope this was informational to you. I'm going to download the recording of this event, and this afternoon I will post it on the training tab of the Western Liberty Network website. So if you want to circle around and see a part that you might have missed, or if you want to forward it to somebody else, that's awesome. None of our information is copyrighted. It's all about getting the information out. And I want to remind everyone to hold February 5th on their calendar. That is when we're going to have our 12th annual conference up in Vancouver, Washington at the Hilton Hotel. We're going to have 20 breakout sessions, and it's just going to be great. So anyway, with that, we'll end this session, and I thank you. God bless you and wish you a good week. Take care.